Awaken Health Pod. I'm Jennifer Grogan, Integrative Health Coach with Greenleaf Wellness in Central Illinois. And with me is my co-host, Shauna Strodell, Integrative Health Coach with Inspire Wellness for You in Arizona. Morning, Shauna.
Good morning, February 5th, 2018. We're going to have a great time today talking about essential oils, the health benefits of them, and maybe some tips on how you can adapt these into your lifestyle. Jen, do we have something else special going on today?
Yeah, Sean and I are excited to announce that we have Beverly Boerner-Reynolds as our guest speaker today. Beverly is an oils advocate with Young Living Essential Oils and is also a published author from Texas. Good morning, Beverly.
Good morning, Miss Shauna and Jen.
Good morning.
Beverly, sorry.
Go ahead.
Beverly, can you give our listeners some fun facts on essential oils?
Sure. First of all, good morning, guys. It's an honor to be here. And essential oils can literally benefit every single system and cell of the human body. And in fact, depending upon how you use it, there's three different ways. The fastest way that you can gain benefit to your body is through diffusing. So a lot of you ladies and men have probably heard of a diffuser. You can literally gain benefit in about 2 to 3 seconds.
What are the other two ways, Beverly?
So first of all, depending upon the quality of the oil, this is probably the most controversial way. But if you use a high quality oil, there's a lot of times that you can actually digest that oil. So that's one way. Diffusing is the second. And the third way is to use it topically. You can either use it as a roll-on, or you can put a few drops on your hand and then smooth it into your skin.
Perfect.
Oh, wow. Sounds pretty cool.
Yesterday when we were speaking, Beverly, you shared a little bit about how you first became interested in essential oils. Will you share a little bit with Jen and I and the listeners on how you were first introduced to essential oils and some of your early introduction?
I sure will, ladies. Kind of a funny story, actually, because about 5 years ago, I was introduced to essential oils by my mother. For those of you who are parents, you might think, okay, so my mom, my dad, gave me advice. Well, it's just my mom. She's a little bit crazy, or it's just my parents being parents. Well, my mom introduced me to essential oils and said, Beverly, you've got to try these because, I feel a difference. She was using them topically because of arthritis and just some physical ailments that she wanted a little bit of relief, whether it was her musculatory system, or other things. She'd been in accidents, and so
wow.
I kind of looked at that as, well, it's just my mom. It's just something that she thinks works. And I had a lot of skepticism. So, but like every good child, I decided to give in and try essential oils. So I bought the Young Living. So I'm into Young Living, but pretty much any essential oil company has very similar practices. We usually have a kit, and you buy into that kit, and you get a variety of oils. At least in Young Living, you get 11 essential oils. You get the diffuser, the product guide, and it tells you a little bit about how to use them. So I was like, well, I invested in this. I should probably use it.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that, I did a little bit of research on my own because I come from an IT background. So I am a researcher. And I started really reading up about the seed to seal process with Young Living and how they test the oils and how there was a lot more than just like this hippie product, as I thought.
Right, yeah.
So, that was my viewpoint. I just thought it was like something that somebody who was a hippie would kind of use, and I thought my mom had kind of gone hippie, which she's not, by the way. But it was my first impression, and I love my mom dearly, and now it's funny because when they always say a parent has great intuition and they know what's right for their child.
Yeah.
Kind of funny because then I've been using these products for 5 years now, and I use them on my dogs. I've got 2 golden retrievers. I have a 9-year-old son, and I use them on myself. Not to mention cleaning of my home. I literally threw everything away underneath my sink.
Wow.
And started using essential oils.
That's amazing. Would you share with the listeners what oils that you like to use within the home and with your dog, and mainly your son, more importantly?
convoluted question, so I'm going to attack one thing at a time.
Okay.
Right? So the main thing that I use to clean my home, and I have a decent-sized home that has a lot of wood, has a lot of tile, has a lot of granite for the countertops, and I literally use one product to clean all of those things.
That's
So
amazing.
we have a product called Thieves. It's actually an oil blend, and Young Living uses Thieves to make literally about 30 products within Young Living. And the product that I'm talking about is the Thieves Household Cleaner. And it's plant-based. And it's literally just blends of oils and parts of plants that make up this product. So it's something I can feel good about to use on just about every single surface of my home. I clean my tubs, my shower, my kitchen sinks, which are grimy and gross.
That's so nice. Instead of harsh chemicals that absorb into your skin and that you inhale, and you're getting all the benefits, I'm sure, from smelling whichever chemicals or whichever oils it is that you're using in the home.
Correct. And Thieves is very gentle on the nose, too, because a lot of people have sensitivities to smells, and I think Thieves stands any allergies, of course, to any smells or whatever, but Thieves is a blend that has lemon and clove in it. So it's very easy on the nose. And I can feel good about the fact that, like, if I'm cleaning my floors, I've got a lot of hardwood, I've got a lot of tile, and I can feel good about myself, my dogs, my son, walking around barefoot and know that I'm not putting a harsh chemical with synthetics and something that's going to cause long-term health issues in the future. I can feel good about that today and tomorrow.
One of the things that stood out to me when you were just saying all that was the environmental smells and being sensitive on the nose. I know for like myself, maybe some other viewers or listeners may have the same problem, but mine's the environmental smells. So like the eucalyptus and the lavender, what would you recommend in your product to try instead to get the same benefits, since that smell is really sensitive?
And we've got an entire line of oils called the Vitality line. So I mentioned at the beginning of the call that if you go with a company that you trust and you do your research as to how those oils are made, that they're not used with a synthetic extender that's just there to extend the crop, for example. Young Living has a seed to seal process, and they have a Vitality line which you can actually consume. So a lot of these oils could be used in lieu of your cooking spices. You can put them in your drinks after a workout, or during a workout, or before a workout. So you can get a lot of very similar benefits going that route. So that way it's not going through your nose, but is being digested. And I know there's a lot of controversy around whether or not oils should be consumed. But what I would say to that is, obviously you have to do what's right for you, but go with a company that you've researched out. Know about how those oils are made. Young Living is not a new company. They've been around for almost 30 years. And a lot of oil companies, they're one of the oldest oil companies in the world. And a lot of prominent competitors have spawned actually off of Young Living. So one thing that sets Young Living apart, besides the fact that they have this line called Vitality that you can consume, you've got thyme, you've got cinnamon, very normal household names. Excuse me. But they also have a seed to seal process. So, and actually, I can go to the farm. In fact, I'm going to be going to the farms with my mom in June.
Wow.
Thank you. And actually touring the farms. And my mom's actually been there before, and that's how I obviously got involved. But they're very transparent about their processes. You know, whether it's the scientists going out in the field and testing the crop, to the distillation process and making sure that everything's tested at the right temperature, plus, minus, not too hot, not too cold. And so if you're, looking into whether or not consumable oil is an option for you, you really have to do some research into how that company tests and grows their product.
Yeah, making sure it's pure quality.
Correct.
Yeah, very good. And most oils should label whether it can be digested or not, correct?
It should, but here's the thing. There's not as rigorous of labeling standards, if you will, for essential oils. It's kind of a controversial thing, although very growing. In fact, over the next couple of years, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. So, and obviously Young Living being one of the highest grossing essential oil companies out there, you really have to do a lot of research into, just like I said, how it's grown and all the processes. Because if you think about all the different steps that something can go wrong,
absolutely,
it's good to have somebody that's transparent about their processes.
I love them. We've mentioned essential oils in the past on some of our podcasts, and there's just certain ones that you can use in the morning that are energizing. Sometimes I'll put them at the bottom of the shower and let the steam kind of, invigorate. And then there's, some that are relaxing, and a lot of them will help ward off flus. I know frankincense is usually good about it's so funny how the misconception could be, well, putting it on my skin would have a stronger effect than diffusing it. But isn't it correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of times, like you said, diffusing has more of an impact with your body smelling the oils than actually putting them on topically?
You're spot on. So if you're diffusing, they typically say, and you can look this up online to validate what I'm saying, but typically you can gain the benefit by diffusing the oils in 2 to 3 seconds. It's very, very quick. It's going through your nasal cavity and directly into the rest of your systems of your body.
Right.
If you're using it topically, think about the fact that you've got multiple layers of skin that it's got to go through. And it can take 20 to 30 seconds or more to actually get inside through the different systems of your body.
Right. And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we mentioned that oils can literally benefit every single system of the body. So I have actually in front of me a brochure that talks about, and this is something that I hand out when I teach classes around the Houston area. If you're looking for a good digestive oil, something as normal as peppermint, whether it's in your water or used topically, it sounds so simple because peppermint is such a widely used oil. And sometimes things that we're very familiar with can have a more powerful benefit than we're used to knowing, in fact.
Right. We may overlook it. I think, does frankincense help fight against cancer risks?
Here's the thing. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
As much as I love using natural options, and I use natural options for myself, that's actually one of my favorite oils because it has so many different benefits. I can't tell you that it would cure cancer.
Absolutely. Correct. We're not doctors either, and we announced that very clearly.
Okay, cool. So, but I mean, I know you know that, but I just want to make sure that our viewers know that as well. So I believe, and it's one of my favorite oils, in fact, because, there's so many benefits to literally just about every single system of your body, your endocrine system, your immune system. It's really great for immune support. Just diffusing it in the air can help, when you have moments of weak immune system moments, you don't feel so great, you feel under the weather. It's also a great skin oil. A lot of people don't know that. So it's a very versatile oil, which is why I literally stock up on it.
Right.
Because especially this time of year, you get sniffles, your nose is running.
Yeah.
And it's just a really, really great oil to be even used in a diffuser as well.
I love it because I know it's like you think that you're using the essential oils for one ailment, but yet your brain signal pathways know how to distribute that either scent or topical oil throughout the body to every place it needs. And so it's like you think you're doing one benefit, but you're doing so many others at the same time.
Absolutely right. And just like I said with the Thieves household cleaner, it's like you can feel good about what you're using in your home. I always offer people in my classes a challenge to go to their cabinets, like underneath their sink, wherever they keep their household cleaners, their floor cleaner, countertop cleaner, window cleaner, whatever, and flip that bottle over and actually read out loud, not just like read it in your mind, but read it out loud. Read the ingredient list. Because you're probably going to stumble on some of the words.
Right, or most of the words.
Probably the majority, right. So, and you look at some of those products and you look up what those products actually are, And it kind of, at least for me, it scared me. And that's what got me into using essential oils and realizing my mom wasn't such a crazy person. I mean, mom knows best. You've heard the old cliche, but it's true.
Well, it's kind of funny you say all that about the chemicals under the counter, because we as integrative health coaches, talk to our clients about the foods and the ingredients on the labels, and if you don't understand it or can't pronounce it, you don't want it. So we always go 5 or less is best, so it applies to the cleaning products as well. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Always do your research and don't just depend on one person. So I would urge the audience too to do their own research. Look at every single ingredient in that list and take it individual by individual ingredient.
It's very good. Hey, Beverly, I noticed too that you guys have wax. How is your wax different from, say, going into a beauty supply house to buy wax for facial waxing and stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually looked at when recently I had another customer who had asked that same question, and I think that if we had wax, we don't sell wax through Young Living. Now, here's what I'm going to say about that though. I have like beeswax at my own home that I make like lip balm out of, for example.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think you have to be really, really careful when we say wax. Like, are we talking about candles? Are we talking about lip balm and beauty products? Because two different things here. So let's attack the beauty product aspect first. If you're dealing with a beauty product and you're using beeswax, for example, that's a very common product.
Mm-hmm.
I would use an organic option. Young Living doesn't sell an option, but I would make sure that you, again, research how, not just what goes into that beeswax. Is it 100% beeswax? Is it 100% of whatever product that you're using? But then how is that sourced? That's really, really important. Is it grown or harvested in an area that it should be, that it thrives the most in? Then the second thing I would say is, you had mentioned wax, and a lot of times people ask, hey, can I make my own candles? So here's another thing to keep in mind when it comes to wax and candles, because I personally don't use candles in my home.
I agree.
For several reasons. A, scent. A lot of times candles, especially if they're commercially sold, have a synthetic product in the wax itself. And so you have to be really, really careful, because if you're burning that throughout your house, and that sense of smell is stronger than just, oh, that's a pretty smell or that's a bad smell. It actually has health benefits or not health benefits based on what's in that. And then the other thing for a candle to keep in mind too, it's not just that waxy product that makes up that candle, but the wick. So even if it's a cotton wick, does it have dyes in it? If it's a metal wick, certain metals are really, really bad when they're burnt.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
What did you say, Shauna?
Oh, I just said that's interesting. I'm very familiar with toxins in the candle waxes and stuff. That's why I didn't use them either. I use the diffusers. I have my diffuser going right now, but I didn't know about the wick. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, what? That was a new one for me. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Another factor too that you might want to consider in terms of candles, it isn't just the health benefits or the smell, but you have to be really, really careful, especially if you have pets. I know that at least one or two of you ladies has pets. I have pets. I have a young child, although he's getting older. Candles, if they're knocked over,
oh gosh,
obviously you have to be careful with the safety aspect too, because most of the home policies don't cover that either.
Right. Wow. And then with the diffusers, I don't think they stain, correct? The oils?
In terms of, you mean the inside of the diffuser, you mean?
Yeah, if it was to spill or topple over or get bumped, it's got the water and the essential oils in it. I don't think it would stain.
No, you have to be careful. In terms of staining, you have to be careful like on a wood surface, because the potency of an essential oil, of a quality essential oil, it's very, very potent. I mean, a little bit goes a long way. You can literally put like 2 to 4 drops in, and it depends on the size of the diffuser, in the diffuser with a full tank of water.
Mm-hmm.
Turn that guy on, put the top on, and just let her go. And then, honestly, in terms of safety for the diffusers, there's nothing that's going to harm you. You could literally leave that on and go, oops, I forgot to turn it off before I went to work. And it's just going to run out of water and turn off.
Right. That's
So
nice.
it's very, very safe. And, like I said, you can feel good about the quality that you're putting into the air of your home.
Yeah, and there's so many different things. There's jewelry now. I actually have a necklace here that was given to me as a gift by, I believe, my cousin, and it's so beautiful. And or no, my girlfriend actually. And it's got a tree on it with little heart leaves, and you can put the oils on the disc in there and wear it and diffuse them. And then I think they have this for keychains. Um, Little cards that you can put in your closet. Do you know what other options there are, Beverly?
I do actually. First of all, Young Living sells obviously the traditional home and office diffusers. You can also get a USB diffuser that you can either put into your car and or into your computer.
Wow.
You also have, like you mentioned, in terms of jewelry, you can get, I believe it's like lava rock consistency, whether it's necklaces or bracelets, and you can actually just pour like a drop or two on the rocks themselves, and that diffuses.
Oh, that's amazing.
In terms of your necklaces, they actually make like what looks like a traditional necklace and looks like a locket. You open the locket, and there's a little pad that you can literally put drops of oil on as well.
Right, that's what I have. And it comes with interchangeable pads. That way
Yep.
you're not, adding your nighttime oils to your morning oils.
Right? One of the other things that I've heard recently in terms of a unique diffusing option. So let's say that you get a high quality bottle of oil, your favorite scent, and like me, I live in Houston, so I have say a 3 to 4 hour commute to and from work, like half that there and half that back.
Wow.
And so I spend a lot of time in my car. It's almost like a part-time job that I don't get paid for. But what people have done actually, besides taking the car diffuser itself, sometimes they'll take like a wooden clothespin and flip it to their air vent in their car.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And yep, as long as it doesn't have any paint on it or anything, it's just one of those natural clothespins, like an old style clothespin.
Right. And then it'll blow
you can
through.
clip it, and they make different sizes. You can actually put the oil on the clothespin as well because it's wood.
That is
so
awesome.
Yeah, a few ideas.
There's so many different things because I know that you can make your own blends. Like I had a friend of mine around Christmas time who knew that I have a lot of the essential oils, and she wanted something for her husband's beard. I know when the men grow beards, they can get, either, ingrown hairs or a little bit of a rash. And so I made her a blend and she gave it to him. And I as far as I know, he loved it and enjoyed it. And they last a long time. A little bit goes a long way.
So here's a couple things on that note. You had mentioned beard oil.
Mm-hmm.
So Young Living, amongst many other companies as well, has a line called Shutron. They have beard oil, they have aftershave, a very wide array of products. So a lot of people think, oh, oils are just for women. It's not true. I actually have 14 people on my team, and 4 of them are men. And they're, in some cases they're selling or they're buying. It's a mixed bag, but it's a kind of a misconception that people have, not just the blend, but just oils themselves even. And by the way, I think it's great that you are already creating blends, regardless of the company that you're using. First of all, I think it's great that you're using essential oils. I think that's the biggest thing that you can realize, that oils have such a huge benefit in our life today.
They really do. Thank you so much. I know if my kids have a fever, I'll make a blend and use some lavender as well and put it on their feet. And then if they're, having a hard time breathing, if there's a cold, I'll just kind of hold the jar next to them. Either I'll diffuse it, or if it's just a quick thing, I'll just kind of put it next to their nose and have them smell it. And then if we go camping, I've got peppermint for the belly, and I've got lavender because when you're traveling, sometimes you don't always sleep just as good as you normally would. So those are just some of like my go-to ones that I keep in my purse and in our travel camper, and that way we just kind of always have one to either relax or help a belly ache, or I think even lavenders helps with pain. So if they get a wound, before we put the Band-Aid on, we'll put the lavender on the wound.
You're exactly right. In fact, you'd mentioned you like to go camping. Mm-hmm. So if you go camping, there's an oil that you can use. In fact, there's several different options. Just like for aches and pains, pretty much every company has some sort of option for like what I would consider like outdoor annoyances. Just like you have a citronella candle that some people will burn, there's actually a oil that's in almost every single major oil company out there that's usually either called Purify or Purification or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really good. So, and that also is a blend, so it takes in the benefit of multiple oils, and it's really, really good. In fact, true story. About 3 or 4 months ago, I have 2 golden retrievers. My oldest dog had a reaction to fleas. And his entire tail from the base all the way to the end was scaled, losing hair. I had no idea what to do. So I turned to, first of all, my vet and asked what the best option was. And, like I always say, some things work for some people, or in this case, pets, and some things don't. My pet did not improve. His little reaction did not improve from the options that I was given. So I turned to the products that I had, essential oils. And in this case, I put Purification on his tail from like after his bath, literally massaged it into his tail as much as he would let me. And of course I had to kind of hold him down because it was very painful. Within 3 weeks, my dog's tail was clear. It took 3 weeks, but I mean, there's no fast option, just like there's no get rich quick schemes out there. It took a little bit of time, but with a little bit of patience, and I knew that what I was putting on my dog was something that wasn't going to hurt him or have other consequences as well.
So if you found something that would help your dog, and it cleared up, does that mean that you have stuff that would be good for teenagers with acne or even adults with acne?
So here's what I would say to that. I would, and I've done research on this as well because I am not a teenager, but somehow my body still thinks that I'm a teenager, and I still get acne. But I wouldn't focus simply on the acne itself. I would focus on how can I clear up my skin? How can I change my complexion? How can I smooth the complexion? So you mentioned a really, really good oil for skin and supporting just the overall look of your skin. I use frankincense. Mm-hmm. Really? Here's something to keep in mind. Yep. And you can actually put frankincense, a great skin oil, you can put that in a moisturizer. So sometimes people have acne, their skin is either one of two things. It's either oily or it's dry. It's one extreme or the other.
Right.
So sometimes moisturizers might not be a great option for the people with oily skin, but it would be a great option for somebody that has really, really dry skin issues. So I wouldn't necessarily focus on that particular word. I would focus on making the skin have a more clear look, supporting the overall, organ that is your skin. Mm-hmm. So not only can you put in your moisturizer, but then you can also use a carrier oil. So some people are familiar with that word, some people aren't. A carrier oil would be something like a coconut oil or a jojoba oil. And why that's important is because if you've never used essential oils, I've mentioned topically, use this oil topically or use that oil topically. But if you've never used oils, you want to make sure that you're using a high quality oil, like I said. But even more importantly, that you want to make sure that you don't have a reaction. Mm-hmm. If you're not used to it, remember a little bit goes a long way. If you use too much, I don't care if you use a high quality oil or not, you could still have a reaction.
Yeah. Okay.
So that carrier oil is going to slow down the absorption of that oil into your skin. So lots of options for you guys as well.
Well, thank you.
Now, I think you can also even use extra virgin olive oil as a carrier oil. Could you?
You could. That's more of a kitchen oil, and the only thing I would say to that is that make sure that it's not something that has a really, really strong, like an Italian type scent. Mm-hmm. Because that will change the smell and the composition of the oil as well. You could use it, absolutely.
Okay. And then I would recommend, exactly like you said, using the carrier oils to dilute it a little bit, use small amounts, practice with it. The reflexology points under the feet and the inner wrists and behind the ears are great places to use these topically.
Absolutely.
And then what I was also going to say, if I can get my train of thought back over here, excuse me, is there's books, right? So you can get either books or you can read online. Does Young Essential Living have a book that can kind of guide you through the usages of the oils?
There's a couple of different resources, but one of my favorite authors, and by the way, I get no benefit from suggesting this person, but they are a Young Living distributor and very successful at that. Her name is Sarah Harnish, and she has a whole series of books that, there's different books for if you want to get into the business, Young Living, or essential oils at all. And there's just a great resource. She also has books for learning how to use the product. So Sarah Harnish is a great author. Pretty much anything by her. The Game Plan book is going to be more of your book to learn how to be a good distributor, how to teach classes. But that book also has scripts in it too. So those scripts would tell you, hey, here's the history of essential oils. Here are the different uses of essential oils. Here's your introduction to essential oil usage, no matter how you use those resources.
Right. Okay. And then because they are very strong, it's one thing if you're putting the bottle to the wrist and you're kind of mixing it in your wrist like a perfume and then putting it behind your ears. But it's another thing if you want to rub it on somebody's back or somebody's neck. I actually use gloves. And because if you wash your hands, is it true that the water will actually intensify the sensitivity if someone is having one? And so washing it off isn't going to happen, that quick and could actually increase the sensitivity. The reason why I mentioned this is because don't get these in your eyes, people. They hurt. It's strong. Keep it away from your eyes. Make sure it's not on your fingers so it can't get into your eyes, especially when using these around children. Can you speak a little bit about that for clarification?
Absolutely. One of the things that I mentioned was that it's really a good idea when using it topically, whether on yourself or of another person, to use a carrier oil. Because like you said, oil and water, by their very nature, any type of oil, I mean, if you think about it, oil and water do not mix.
Right.
It's no different here. In fact, if I tell you, hey, put this in your bath water, I would say, hey, use Epsom salt with it so that it will help absorb that oil so that it can mix together.
Oh, that's a great
idea. You need a mixing agent.
Okay.
So in terms of when you put it on other people, there's a few things, not just to use a carrier oil because you never know their sensitivity level or yours, unless it's something that you're familiar with and you're using your own stock, for example. But in addition to using a carrier oil, I would make sure that you're aware that you know who you're putting it on, that you have permission to put it on. Like I wouldn't put it on somebody else's kid unless I have the parents' permission.
Oh,
and I would definitely use a carrier oil there.
Absolutely.
Or somebody who's like a senior citizen or somebody whose immune system is compromised. Make sure that you use a lot more of the carrier oil than the oil itself.
Right.
And also use a lot of precaution from a safety standpoint, not just, what are you mixing together? Do you have permission? But general safety. So know what you're putting on that person and what they're going to be doing. So here's an example. If you're putting it on somebody who's going to be going outside in the sun, they're going to be sunbathing or, doing yard work, gardening, whatever, I wouldn't use a citrus oil on them. So a lot of people love like just a simple lemon or a lemon blend.
Right.
Thieves, for example, has lemon in it. As I mentioned, that's that household cleaner. But citrus products will actually, and it doesn't matter the brand, it's just citrus in general. If you were to squeeze a lemon on you, like a straight up lemon from the grocery store, if you're using something that's citrus based, it can burn your skin. And I don't mean like the oil itself. I mean, you go out in the sun, and the combination of the sun with the oil will burn your skin. So you want to use safety that way.
Right, absolutely. I know I mentioned peppermint helps aid any issues with the stomach. It also is energizing. And so if I go to do a workout or something, a lot of times I'll put peppermint on. I know some people will chew gum for that purpose, but I don't prefer gum. I think for me it causes bloating, and it could for a lot of other people as well. But using a peppermint essential oil for energy. And then some of these oils are very, very strong. So I want you in a minute, Beverly, to share a little bit about usages on these for young children. But I did want to mention that lavender, for example, is more tolerant to children, especially with the carrier oil, versus clary sage. Clary sage is extremely strong, and I'm not sure, Beverly, if Young Essential Living uses that by the same name, but how you were just mentioning, be cautious of what the client or your friend or family member is going to be doing later, because clary sage can make you drowsy, if I'm correct, and
Right.
you don't want to, have a little oil party and then the person has to either go to work or travel and, could be very, very exhausted. Could you share some information there?
Absolutely. So I already mentioned that I teach classes all around town. And they're usually night classes. I've done some weekend classes, but a lot of times they'll be night classes. And I always make sure that I give them a takeaway. So that could be my contact information, maybe a little mini booklet, and a sample of something. Recently, especially around the holidays, I did do a bath salt, and I either did peppermint or I did lavender, something that they're familiar with that they would know.
Right.
And it's still, like in the case of lavender, is, like you said, a relaxing oil.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, hey, if you've had a hard day, use this little, it's like actually a glass jar. It has a little cork topper in it. And I make a bath salt, and it's just a little mini thing, and they can dump the entire thing into their bath. And I tell them after a hard day, lavender is a great option.
Mm-hmm.
So you also mentioned that, be careful what you're doing after that. So I wouldn't tell them to take a bath as their morning ritual and then go to work, because lavender is a relaxing oil. It's going to just literally put you in a state of, hey, let's try and forget our day kind of thing. So the other thing that you mentioned very prominently is kid type oils, or oils good for kids. And I can't speak for every single brand, but I can speak to Young Living, and they have an entire line of products that are made for children that are already they already have a carrier oil in them. In this case, it's called fractioned coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's already diluted for children. So the line is called Kid Sense, and it's literally made for things that kids deal with. So, for example, I pretty much should have stock in the company in this particular oil. I have it in my hand. It's called Kid Sense. It has a blue label, and it's called Sniffles. And so you can pretty much know where I'm going here, because kids, not only do they have, nose issues, nasal issues, cold, drippy noses, they're kind of gross sometimes. I love my child, but they have they have messy noses.
Yeah.
And so,
and we all have boys here. Jennifer has 2, you have 1, I have 1. So I've got a couple girls too, but just throwing that out there.
Okay. So y'all understand. That's awesome. But I mean, and it's not just boys, but I mean kids in general. They have dirty hands. They go play in the mud. Okay, girls aren't going to play in the mud as much as boys would, although I did. But you go play in the mud, the kids come back, and you're like, oh no. Or even more challenging as a parent, you send your kid off to school because you have to go to work, and they come home, and not only are their hands disgusting, but you never know what kind of germs they have picked up. So it's really, really good to know that there are options out there that are already diluted for kids.
That's fantastic.
And it could be Sniffles, like this Kid Sense line has. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I have Sniffles in my hand because I literally have a bottle in every single room. I've got a 9-year-old boy, and boys are dirty. They go out and they play with the dogs. They come in and they're just dirty. And they go to school, and while they may not, look like they're dirty, you never know what they're bringing home on their hands and their clothes and whatever. So I diffuse Sniffles because, especially this time of year, it's just really great for respiratory support, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of an important thing when you're dealing with kids. So my son was born as a preemie, so respiratory support is really, really important for him, especially.
No.
But this particular line also has Aoi. It has Genius. So owie is literally like I can put it on my son's scrapes or little owies. I mean, I love this line because they name the oil blend based off of what you would cognitively think of.
That's
when
so
you
cute.
Think of.
That's a lot of fun.
So Genius is another one. So Genius is really good for mental support, and if your kids are like in my kid's case, he is high energy. So focusing mentally is a challenge. Yes. Love that. Obviously, you love your children to pieces. You take them where they're at, and you recognize their strengths. Mm-hmm. One of my kids' strengths is not being calm. Mm-hmm. No. Just about any case, probably like me. But that's a good thing because you can recognize those challenges and their strengths, and you can go, okay, if you're going to sit down and do homework, I'm going to change out what I'm putting in my diffuser, for example, to support him in his activities.
Right. Yeah, because they need that. Kids need to be able to unwind and, just take it easy and have some downtime and relax and focus and pay attention to what it is, the task that they're doing in that moment.
Right. Spot on. Couldn't have said it better myself.
This is awesome. Jen, do you have any questions over there?
I'm just soaking in all the information. I think it's great.
I know. You're going to break the bank after this podcast today on essential oils, I'm thinking.
My mind's spinning here, yeah. So I love the information. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. There's one thing I want to mention. So a lot of people have a thought in mind, and it's kind of triggered when you said break the bank.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to say that anything worth having is cheap. However, at that, just like I mentioned earlier about the cabinet challenge and looking underneath your cabinet, swapping out those cleaners, for example, that household cleaner is very, very potent and very strong, such that you only need like a capful or two in a spray bottle, or 3. I mean, it depends on how you want it diluted. But a little bit goes a long way, so that can last you a lot longer than you might have suspected. So in terms of cost, it may be an upfront cost, but how long is that lasting you? What is that doing for your family in terms of the future benefits? Whether it's the respiratory system or whatever it is, there's a lot of benefits, and each oil can be used for multiple things.
Absolutely. My bottles average at 15 milliliters. What size does Young Living?
Yeah. Young Living actually has 2 bottle sizes for certain oils. So some only come in a 5 milliliter,
right,
which has about 80 to 90 drops in it.
Okay.
Well, others may or may not also come in a 15 milliliter, which has about 250 drops in it.
Okay. And so keep this in mind for all the listeners. So you just said 250 in the 15 milliliter, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so these, when you're putting them on topically, you're putting less than 3 drops, correct? About 1 or 2?
It depends on how much you want to have on there. But I mean, I would say anywhere from 1 to 4 drops on average.
And then if you're diffusing into a standard bedroom or small space, under maybe 300 square feet, you would need less than 10, maybe between 7 and 10 drops. Am I right?
I've got a mid-sized diffuser in just about every single room of my house, because I'm sort of like that. Of course, they get stolen by my son, but nonetheless, I put about 3 to 5 drops at most in those diffusers, and that's a mid-sized diffuser. I mean, and your diffusers come in different sizes.
Right. Okay, so just, 250 drops, you're only using, a few drops here and there per oil for different things. They last a long time. And what is the shelf life? Do these need to come in amber-colored bottles, dark-colored glass? Is that better? Can you share a little bit of information about the shelf life and maybe proper storage?
Absolutely. So typically they do come in sort of an amber-colored bottle, and I mean bottle as in glass, not plastic. Now the tops can be plastic because you're storing them, sitting straight up with usually the oil's not touching the top. And there's also usually a little, I'm not sure what the word is, but a filament, I guess, to help stop the oil from just pouring out all at once. It comes out by the drop, literally.
Yeah.
So in that glass bottle, it's really important because oils have a molecular structure to it that will actually eat through plastic. So, and it's really, and it's not, it doesn't mean that that's not a good quality oil.
Right,
that's just, it's just very, very strong. So when I say a little bit goes a long way, I mean a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many different uses in terms of shelf life. There shouldn't be, on a good quality oil, there should not be a shelf life. Okay. However, here's the thing. In terms of storage, I wouldn't store it in your attic or keep it in your car.
Right.
I keep oils in my purse or a little bag that I take with me, but I don't keep it in my car because I'm in Houston, and 90% of the time it's hot.
Yeah, we're in Lake Havasu, Arizona. She's in Illinois. Yep. I think we all get a little bit of that warmness, but
definitely
more than others.
Right. The other thing I would urge people to do is really think through in terms of quality. Oils shouldn't freeze. A good oil, eventually everything's going to freeze if you leave it there long enough. But you can tell the quality of an oil when and I wouldn't recommend necessarily freezing all your oils because that's not necessarily a good idea either. If you just want to test in terms of the quality of your oil, stack that up next to what you buy in the health food store or even your Walgreens or Walmart, your big box stores that now sell what they're labeling as an essential oil. But if you smell, I would take lavender as a prime example. If you take lavender from a shelf at a store, sold commercially at a store, versus an MLM or multi-level marketing company oil, lavender, you're probably going to smell a difference in the smell itself. And why that's important is because you want to make sure that you're getting a good quality oil, because your synthetics that are added to some of your cheaper oils, that is where you're going to lose the quality. If you're going with a company such as an MLM company, there's several out there, you're going to be getting a pure oil. So if I say, hey, this bottle of lemon is exactly that. It's cold pressed distilled lemon. Mm-hmm. That's really, really important to understand that one simple fact.
Right.
So, obviously you're going to get degradation in your oil if you're dealing with something that has synthetics.
Yeah. And with our health coaching practice, we talk a lot about whole foods and real foods and single ingredient options. And so this is another area that we would want those out there to pay attention to.
Yeah, and one last thing here too, for that subject is that, you mentioned cost. A lot of people, when I teach classes, will say, wow, essential oils can get really expensive. And while I would agree it can, you have to think in terms of product swapping and think about what you're getting. So here's a really quick example about that. Let's say that I hold in my hand a 5 milliliter, which is the smaller bottle that we typically have. You have a 5 milliliter bottle that has about 80 to 90 drops in it of oil. I'm going to take lemon as an example because I know off the top of my head that it takes about 35 cold pressed lemons to make that little bottle of oil.
It's amazing.
So you know what you're getting. If a company can put out stats like that to tell you exactly what you're getting and how much it takes to go into that price of that bottle.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Well, we definitely thank you for coming on today, recording live with us and sharing all of this information. I know there's so much more to oils and so many benefits, and we just wanted to give everybody a sneak peek. Hold on just 1 second. I'm very sorry. Okay, thank you for holding on that quick break. We are back. Beverly, yes, I was saying there's so many different options. We can never say everything with all of the different talks that Jen and I do on our Awaken Health podcast. But for any of the listeners who have any questions, definitely email us, contact us at coaches@awakenhealthpod. And Beverly, I'm sure, will be posting some fun facts of extra oils on there, maybe in the near future. And I know you're not just into the living essential oils. You have beauty pageant background, correct?
I do.
And then also, as a published author, would you share the title of your book, please?
Absolutely. I did children's book that I authored and illustrated, and it's on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And the title of the book is called Here and There, Loving You Always. And you can search for my name as well.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we had so much fun. I think for a going away tip, could you share what your personal favorite essential oil is? Not for cleaning, not for your son, but what you like to use for you?
I think I kind of gave you a little bit of a sneak peek, but my favorite oil is actually frankincense.
Oh, that's right.
It sounds so like normal, but that is literally one of the most versatile oils that can support so many different systems. So respiratory, nervous system, cardiovascular system. I mean, you name it. It's just such a versatile oil that I love. I literally put it on my skin as my moisturizer, because somehow I think that I'm still a teenager, apparently. But I use it for my skin. I use it in my moisturizer. I actually literally get an organic moisturizer. Young Living has a few as moisturizers as well. Just make sure it's not a scented oil, and then I just literally put a few drops in there and mix it into my moisturizer, and I use it for my daily regimen, just for my skin alone. And also, I love the smell of frankincense. It's just, I mean, as you know, it's a biblical oil. It's been used throughout history, and it's nothing new. So I actually like to diffuse it as well. Sounds simple, but
sounds like fun.
That's fantastic. I love all the health benefits. The smells are amazing. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of my favorites here in front of me right now. This one's Serenity. Just smells so good.
Good, very good.
Well, thank you so much. We enjoyed having you. Can't wait to hear more about what you're doing, and we will be live again next Monday.
Sounds great. I can put my contact information along with maybe a few tips as well.
Okay.
But otherwise, it was an absolute honor, and thank you so much for looking me up and having me on your show. I think that you guys have a fantastic show going, and can't wait to be working with you guys in the future as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming along today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, girls.
You too, ladies. Bye.